Welcome to this Sunday service with the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We call ourselves ERUUF. I'm Reverend Deborah Cayer. If you're joining us now by recording, gosh, we had some problems earlier today, along with the rest of the entire world, it seems. We were trying to get online to have Sunday morning worship at the same time that so many places were trying to celebrate their graduates of all ages. And so here we are, a little bit delayed, and we're very glad that you're able to join us. Our services are going to continue online in the weeks ahead. Just consult our website, watch e-news for information, or you can contact our office. On Sundays after service, the membership team is hosting the Inquirers class. This is a class for anyone who would like to find out more about who we are and what we do here. It's intended for newcomers, but members are most welcome if you'd like to join in. That class will run as long as we have 5 people signed up and ready to take it. So sign up. We want to be with you. That would be great. On Monday evening, May 18th, the board is hosting another listening session for anyone who would like to know more about ERUUF's finances. The board would also like to find out what our members think about certain topics and important matters. And so it's a dynamic, interactive meeting that'll take place Monday evening at 7 p.m. You can check the website for a link to find out how to get to that meeting. The service today will be led by me and by our worship associate, Henry Amador-Batten. Hey, Henry. And Reverend Stacy Grove. Our music today is so special. It's virtual by ERUUF members from the age of 2 in the rhythm section with our Chalice Singers through 80-something in the Eno River Singers. Jocelyn Neal has put together some amazing virtual choirs for the service today, and everybody participated, and it was a total community effort. The offertory is also an original composition by ERUUF member Cliff Misson, and Kate Lewis plays the piano. So let's just take a deep breath. And let's just center ourselves into our bodies, into this time, this place. And let's continue our service with the Prelude. Our opening words today are by Rebecca Parker, and our chalice lighting is written by Lois Van Leer. I'll do the opening words. Henry has the words for the chalice lighting. Hear this now. Parker says, your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love? You must answer this question. What will you do with your gifts? Henry?
Yes. We light this chalice, not because we must, but because we may. We light this chalice not because we have the truth, but because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. We light this chalice in connection across culture, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our religion may be a beacon of light, hope, and justice. We light this chalice to kindle our hearts and our minds.
Our next song this morning is Gather the Spirit.
Tyler, this congregation's Director of Religious Education. We have an amazing team of RE teachers who have been so agile and resourceful this spring as we've transitioned to online RE classes. These classes will continue on through to the end of this month. At 9:30 on Sundays, our 3s and 4s have been having tea parties with stuffed animals, and families are taking turns sharing favorite stories with each other. Our K to 2nd graders are sharing joys and concerns in a Chalice circle format. And our 3rd to 5th grade Hogwarts class has joined forces with the witches and wizards at the 2nd service. And together as Dumbledore's army, they are fighting the Horcrux of sickness right now. At 11:30 each week, in our 3s and 4s, a teacher has made animated RE videos with beautiful, identifiable illustrations of our own participants. Our K to first graders are now singing as the Sunshine Kids Choir at 11:30. And our 2nd to 3rd graders are also having a Chalice Circle experience, sharing feelings arising during this time of social distancing. Our middle schoolers are having competitive scavenger hunts around the house and are writing cards to ruffians quarantining alone. And at 4:30 each Sunday, our high schoolers have been gathering together to make pancakes, bird watch, and they had a virtual lock-in. It is my great joy to get to work with all of these teams to support our children, youth, and families in these uncertain times. And now I am so excited to share with you This Pretty Planet, sung by our own Chalice Singers Choir and edited by Jocelyn Neal.
Well, that will certainly help you get through a day. Unitarian Universalists encourage our children to pay attention to the wonder and the beauty of the world, not so that they can give glory to a remote and distant creator, but to understand the world, to understand the universe, to understand all of this as our ultimate home, an interconnected, interdependent web of relationships of which we are a part. We know that when anyone does this, it makes you sing, it makes you want to dance, it makes you want to clap your hands. And this is one way that religious liberals offer praise to creation. In this service today, we're going to look at some of the distinguishing features of Unitarian Universalism, one of which, just one, is our tendency to be dissenters. We are often the people who ask why or why not out of idle curiosity, not out of stubbornness, not out of some urge to poke, but out of a genuine inner wrestling. We genuinely wrestle with truth as we have experienced it and as we've come to understand it after intense engagement. This is how we interact with the world. This is our job. This is how we go through life. Henry has our readings this morning. They're both taken from a presentation given by the late Reverend Nancy Schaefer at Starr King School of the Ministry at a symposium called Dissent. This piece is simply called Yes. Henry?
Dissent begins with yes. Deeper than any no, prior to no is yes. Hope comes from yes. Willingness to give one's life comes from yes. Yes is the beginning, not only of dissent, but all life before that. We are born into yes, are born because of some grand yes, are forever finding our way back. The longings of our heart are always yes. No may rally us, but what sustains us is yes. The saints who came before us, all those who say, I called on God, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. All those who rest now from their labors knew that yes is deeper than, prior to, stronger than any no. They knew that dissent may on the surface look like no, but far more resilient, far more creative. That which called them, that is yes. All of our gathering, all of our seeking as religious liberals is about yes.
People who study religion have pointed out that there are more variations within a particular world religion, from conservatism on the right to liberalism on the left. There are more variations within that spectrum of any given world religion than there are differences between world religions. If you stacked them all up, there would be more difference horizontally than vertically. These scholars point out that, in fact, conservatives of all religion have more in common with each other than they do with liberals of their own tradition, and that's true for liberals too. Marcus Borg was a religious scholar who was very interested in these kind of differences. And Borg describes an older traditional kind of Christianity which teaches such things as God created the world and then withdrew from it. And so God is not actively involved in the world. And yet, from time to time, this distant God does intervene on rare occasions. Borg calls this kind of faith supernatural theism. Other people just call it orthodoxy. But the worldview that he describes is shared by conservatives across all religious traditions. The reason for having faith, according to this model, is to have the right beliefs so that you can correctly follow a set of rules so you can get to heaven after you die. That's the point of going to church, or synagogue or mosque, whatever your faith. If you're a conservative, that's the point. It's about what comes after. The emphasis within conservatism or orthodoxy is on passing along the right teaching, getting it right, often literally, and adopting the right belief, because this is presumably the only way that you are ever going to be able to get to heaven. So faith then in this model is about believing impossible things, just turning off your brain and accepting impossible things. Orthodoxy is a legalistic, moralistic, literal system. It's also exclusive. We in here, we, the true believers, have the truth. They do not. And so we don't have to care about them. We only have to care about what goes on in here. And so the emphasis tends to focus on individuals, not society, not systems. It's interesting that this worldview actually was adopted by city elites in the ancient Near Eastern world some 3,000 years ago. At the time, those elites were 1% to 2% of the population, and then another 8% of the population were their administrators. And so the top 10% of the society received 66%, 2/3 of all the wealth. They got the agriculture, they got the trade goods, 2/3 of it. The remaining 90% of the culture, 90% lived on the 1/3 that was left over. Interestingly, this theology that supports this is biblically grounded because these social elites produced biblical texts that supported what they were doing. And yet, at the same time, there was another theological tradition that rose up that is also biblically based. This alternative story is rooted in the combined teachings of all of the prophets in the Hebrew and the Christian texts. This tradition reveals a very different understanding of God. Marcus Borg and others point out that when we read the Hebrew and the Christian prophets, we discover that they relied upon their own experience of the world and on their own experience of spirit. The picture that emerges is one in which they were in relationship with a God who they found everywhere, both nearby, immanent, and also very, very far away, transcendent, that both at the same time. Borg says, God is the encompassing spirit. We and everything that is exist in God. For this concept in this model, God is not a supernatural being that is separate from the universe. Rather, God, the sacred, the spirit, is a non-material layer or a level of dimension of reality that's all around us. So God is more than the universe, and yet the universe is in God. Thus, in a spatial sense, God is not somewhere else, but God is right here. Marcus Borg. So that's the nearness of the sacred compared to a very distant, very disinterested concept of the sacred. Other people call this religious liberalism. Borg calls it panentheism, which literally means God in all things. By whatever name, this religious understanding allows for a difference between God and the creation. And so what that allows is for freedom. It allows human beings, for instance, as part of the creation, to have the freedom to make choices. And the freedom in those choices to choose relationship with each other, with the natural world, with the sacred. It's a choice. And so ethics for the Hebrew prophets and for liberal and progressive Jews and Christians and Muslims ever since, ethics is about choices. It's about the choices that we make. It's not about following a set of rules. This prophetic liberal faith has been the basis for various liberation and covenantal theologies, and more recently for process theology. In terms of spirituality within this understanding, transcendence is not about overcoming some great cosmic distance between us and the sacred, between us and God. Transcendence in this worldview becomes a way to understand mystery. It becomes a way to understand numinous spiritual realities, ineffable spiritual realities, right here in the world with us. They are not supernatural things so much as simply what it means to be part of human, to be part of nature. Whether or not we believe in God, Unitarian Universalists are people who resonate with this prophetic, religiously liberal and progressive way of practicing faith. We place an emphasis on the here and the now, and on relationships, and on the freedom to make choices. We share this orientation with all other liberal religious folks, liberal, Quakers and Mennonites for sure, but also liberal humanists and Jews and Muslims, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Methodists, the liberal part of any religious tradition that you could possibly think of. And so we are among those who have always pushed traditional limits at any given time, sometimes past the comfort levels of the orthodox keepers of tradition, to the point where they have called us heretic, rebel, dissenter. We were told over and over that if we wouldn't conform, we had to leave. And so we are among those who tend to find themselves on the edge rather than at the center of a given religious tradition. When we embrace this, when we lean into it, that edge often becomes a leading edge. And this also makes, at the same time that we're embracing that leading edge, it also makes for some great tension and irony within our tradition, as well as with other religious traditions. All of this, when you think about it, suggests that liberal and conservative are worldviews. They're lenses, they're frames that we use to make sense of reality. Some psychologists, such as Jonathan Haidt, think that we don't even choose these lenses for ourselves, that maybe it's something in our biology that predisposes us to feel more at home with a view that's either conservative or liberal. But all of this shows up in our core values. Orthodox religious conservatives value unquestioned faith, even if it's about something that is absolutely impossible. And then it's about following that set of rules. Growth is not an important religious value in this worldview, although it can be nice for individuals. On the other hand, religious liberals value experience over a set of memorized belief. We are open to reality as we experience it, and we are willing to wrestle with it and to make sense of it. We value transparency, inclusion, cooperation, collaboration, talking things through, working on things, and making decisions together. We put an emphasis on the here and the now. Heaven may or may not be some other place or time, but heaven or hell is definitely right here, right now, in how we treat each other and how we treat the natural world, right here, right now. At this time, I want to invite Jenny to play the musical interlude.
Join me for a time of meditation and prayer. This meditation is by Clyde Grubbs. Source of life, we've been given time to measure our days. What are we to make of these times? These times in which we live and love and have our being. The road of history has been long, full of both hope and disappointment. There have been wars and rumors of wars, violence and exploitation, hunger and homelessness, and destruction. We know that we cannot continue to live in the old way. We must make a change, seek a new way, a way leading toward peace, with justice and a healthy planet. Creative Spirit, you have given a vision for the good, and we so yearn for a new way. But where are we to find the courage to begin to work for this new beginning? We wonder what is required of us. We think of the prophets, women and men who gave voice to unpopular opinion, who made personal sacrifices, sometimes their lives, for the sake of justice. May we be inspired and renewed by the courage of these witnesses. Let them empower us as we work for this vision. And may we now take just a moment of silence. In our beloved community this day, we hold in our hearts Vincent Licenciado, whose mother died May 5th at age 98. Daniel Trollinger and his daughters Joelle, Kelsey, and Brenna in the loss of his father, their grandfather, who died Monday at the age of 90. We pray healing energies for Maury Spitzer. We celebrate all the 2020 graduates. We celebrate with Raquel Silva the joyful milestone, the recent 13th birthday of her triplets, Daniel, Helena, and Vera, who were born prematurely at 31.5 weeks. They are now happy and healthy teenagers. For all these named and all those that are held in the privacy of our heart, we hold gently with love and compassion. So may it be. Amen.
Anointed by God, may then create peace.
justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like hopes of righteousness stand your people. Oh, come build a land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may and create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
What, I ask you, is the character of dissent? What allows it? That a character that allows dissent comes from loving wisdom, loving conscience, the stirring of one's own heart, reason, and ineffable knowing. It comes from placing this wisdom above all else. As the author of the Wisdom of Solomon writes, preferring to scepters and thrones, accounting wealth as nothing in comparison, knowing that all gold is but a little sand in wisdom's sight, and silver is accounted as clay before it. The character that allows dissent comes from loving wisdom and inner personal knowing, more than health, more than beauty, choosing it as radiance that never ceases, believing that such knowing is an unfailing treasure, the mother, the beginning of all else good. I called on God and the spirit of wisdom came to me, records the ancient writer. A simple account, a simple noting of a template for a lifetime of purpose, resolve, source. I called on God. I asked the mystery of this life to be present before me. I said, see, here I am. And the spirit of wisdom came to me. Something beyond my own knowing, my own thinking visited me. Something wiser than I appeared before me. Something new and fine was born where it had not been before. Something my bones knew is true. Something my heart knows is true came to me. Something to which I will give my life came to me. Your own dissent, your yes. How does it come to you? How do you meet it? How? Know it? How do you pray over it? How? Sit with it? How does it shape your life and call you into being?
Thank you, Henry. Nancy Schaefer points out and writes about a very different kind of understanding of spirituality on the part of religious and progressive people. Marcus Borg points out that prior to the Enlightenment, most Western people had at least a twofold view of the world that included realms of both spirit and matter. The Hebrew prophets had this spirit-filled view of the world also. But since the Enlightenment, modern people have come to believe that the world is simply material, and material can be fully known if we just look at it carefully enough. Borg says that this worldview leaves little room for mystery. He did not consider himself a theist in the traditional Orthodox sense, but he observed that modernism tends to reduce theological possibilities to either atheism or that older conservative orthodoxy. And it was his experience that there were so many other possibilities, the possibilities of liberal religion, or that so many people have found within religion, liberal religion. Like the prophets, Borg and most Unitarian Universalists have had the experience of listening for that still small voice within, the voice of reason, of conscience, an inner experience of ultimate and unsurpassable ultimate reality. Once we've experienced this, we will stake our lives on this ultimate reality. We will stake our lives on this ultimate truth, and we know that we betray this at our peril. This is our lived experience. We test it with our reason. We test it alone by ourselves, and we also know that it is just too easy to overlook something when we're by ourselves. It's just hard to see what we're in the middle of. And so that's why we gather in community and we share our experience with others, and we listen to their honest, searching questions. When we do this, we're not trying to tear each other down. We're not trying to convince each other of anything. We're trying to help each other. We're trying to support each other's spiritual journey and our own quest for meaning and authenticity and integrity. It's in community that we are truly able to know and sort out and claim, this is what I know. This is what I will not refuse. This is what I will stake my life upon. This is where I will not bow to anyone else's demands. This is where I salute nothing but this. Nor will I recite a creed or embrace a political view that does not include this. This is where I will not allow anyone's pride or greed or love of power, including my own, to stop me from speaking the truth as I understand it. Nor will I let my own need to belong stop me from claiming the experience that I know is real and true. This is where I will keep my own company if no one else will have me. Because these things matter, ultimately. And so I will keep faith. I will keep community with this ultimacy at the center. This is less a matter of detached principle than of embodied experience, embodied knowing. Often we have to face our loss and our sorrow and our pain and our grief in order to really know these things at the heart. But by traveling that path, we come to an unshakable solidarity with all of creation. This is also what compels us to go out into the world to witness with our conscience and to show up for justice, to show up for social change. None of this comes solely out of our head, out of our mind alone. It comes out of our lived experience. It comes out of our deep feelings as well. We absolutely value thinking, but before this, we value our firsthand knowledge and then our reflection upon that knowledge. Nancy Schaefer asks, your own dissent, your yes, how does it come to you? How do you meet it? How do you know it? How do you pray over it, sit with it? How does it shape your life and call you into being? It's worth contemplating these essential things anytime, but especially when the world has changed in dramatic ways, it is essential to know what guides us. For religious liberals, it's not a set of rules, but it's an inner experience And then questions met again and again, alone and with others. Questions that we wrestle with that help us know and come to be in relationship with what is ultimate, whatever we call it, however we understand it. And from this, we find our way into relationship with one another and with all of creation. May it be so now and in all the days to come. Blessed be. Ashe and Amen. ERUUF is doing ministry in new ways as we find our way through this pandemic. Your generous support enables us to keep the light of liberal religion shining brightly in this part of North Carolina. Thank you for your generous support. Cliff Misson wrote a piece called Walk the Way, and it is performed this morning by the Eno River Singers in a virtual choir that was created by Jocelyn Neal. Here's Cliff to share what his inspiration is for this wonderful music.
Hi, I'm Cliff, and I consider myself a religious tourist. Wherever I go, I find myself exploring the local belief systems and religions to learn how my newfound friends understand this wacky universe. The core messages I hear sound suspiciously the same. Pull your head out of your navel and serve others. Service to others helps them. It builds community, but most importantly, it helps us to grow, to understand who we are, to gain better perspective, and heal. I love this observation by Mother Teresa. She says, I have found the paradox that if I love until it hurts, then there is no hurt, only more love.
Tell us, is created right here on earth.
Oh my gosh, how wonderful to see so many of our people, and especially our kids. We give thanks for all that keeps us moving forward through life with love and with grace and with joy. Blessed be. Our closing words today are by Christine de la Huerta. He writes, "We must shine now. This is the goal toward which we stretch step by step in our own time at our own pace. As our beauty unfolds and our hearts open, we become gentler and more compassionate, yet brighter, more empowered and fearless. We have been holding on, holding back, playing small, hiding our light under a bushel. Enough of that. It is time to let go. We are needed now, all of us together, all who feel a calling to be who we are to the fullest, to make a difference, to give it all we've got. Let us go in love, friends, to let our light shine today and always." Our last piece of music is Down by the Riverside, and that's where we're going to go.
Down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gotta lay down my sword and shield. Down by the riverside, gotta study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. Gonna study. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war.